Thanks for tuning in. Another live show here on Proline TV. And even though it's just another live show, it's more than just another live show. It is our first college basketball show for the 2026 season, the 25-26 college basketball season. And this is going to be one of many. So this is going to lead us all the way through to the Final Four. That means we have at least one college basketball report every week. And then we'll have everybody else joining us, the usual parties, Jim Feist, Mark Lawrence, Andy Isco. We'll be transitioning from football to college basketball and several other topics on the Playbook ATS podcast, the weekly show that Mark hosts every Thursday at 1 Eastern. We still have a few weeks to go for football, of course, but we'll make that transition for sure 100% in February. And then late February, mid-February, once the Super Bowl is behind us, it's really college basketball taking center stage for about a good 6-7 weeks. So if you're a college basketball fan, we definitely advise you to check us out because we're going to have tons of really cool information, trends, data, obviously picks that are going to help you with your March Madness brackets, as well as everything leading up until then. And that includes tomorrow's games. That's right, Saturday, another big slate of games in college basketball. And we're going to kick off our show today. One of the topics or one of our formats, one of our segments actually is going to include going into some key games in college basketball tomorrow. So we're going to do that as we go through the games. I'm going to let you know why we picked those games. And just so you know, they're not going to just be some random game. Every game that we're going to talk about, at least on these types of shows, are going to be about teams that we really want you to keep an eye on for whatever reason. So in other words, I'm not just going to pick out, I got Minnesota over Maryland because it's my 5-star play of the week. No, we're not doing that, or at least I'm not doing that. That's not my job, not my gig. What I am going to do, though, is try to get you ready with futures and with as much information as possible on as many college basketball teams that you need to be paying attention to. So we'll go over the futures as well, and we'll have the updated lines on these games, and we usually take those lines from DraftKings. So we got to keep in mind that when we take a look at the DraftKings odds, those odds definitely skewed a little bit, but that's okay. It just happens to be a very easy site for us to navigate and to present to you on the air, and that's why we use it. All right, so let's start off first of all with futures. Okay, so we're gonna pop on the futures, and I'm also going to show you the futures that we've already played and the futures that we actually added to today, and that we are going to add to probably every week. That all depends. Of course, a lot of it has to do with the numbers, as always, and we'll go through that. So we're going to go through the futures first, and then we're going to go through games. We're going to mix in here. So you see Michigan, fresh off of their first loss of the season at Wisconsin last week. That was inevitable. You know what's interesting about their win? Actually, their loss to Wisconsin was that it's like one of those typical type of losses you get come March Madness in a tournament. When a team that's heavily favored loses and you go, how did they lose? I mean, how did it happen? Well, that's what we love about Cinderellas and bracket busting and all that kind of stuff, is because in the tournament, you can be 1 and out. And even if you're a heavy favorite, but what usually happens in that situation is the team that beats you gets hot. They get hot from 3. And that's really the main way that you can knock off big time teams in college basketball for many years, with the 3-point line. Now, last year, as we saw, we're going to be reminding everybody of that almost every week, and we'll definitely force it into everybody's heads as a reminder once we have that week after the announcements made, Selection Sunday, and we've got that 24-40. I think last year we did a tournament preview show that night on Sunday night, and then we had the playbook special that might have been on Monday night because we had to get it started early, usually a Thursday show. And that's what we'll do again. And I promise you that we are going to hammer this to you just as a reminder of what happened last year, where Cinderella was just not showing up. And it was a big story last year in college basketball. Is this what we're going to be dealing with now? The lack of Cinderellas now that the NIL has entered the industry, and especially in college basketball, because that would not be good. All right. Because everybody knows that the popularity of college basketball, it is what it is. But the difference between the average basketball fan, NBA college basketball, the difference between that fan and where how the popularity of the sport was, okay, let's say the popularity is a line right here. Here's your popularity of the sport. Now, let's just say that's the even mark, the break, that's 50-50. That's okay. The numbers are okay. They're not terrible, but that's where we are in basketball. That's how popular the sport is. Now let's talk about what the Cinderella concept did to college basketball, and it raised the traffic, it raised viewership, popularity all the way up here. And if you lose all of that, you come right back down here again. And that's not good. So I hope it was an anomaly. And we could just keep our fingers crossed that it was. Because I didn't look at it last year going in, forecasting the games and go, oh yeah, with NIL, and I've seen the way these teams are, and I've seen the way the season went by last year, and there's not going to be any Cinderellas. Nobody said that. We just still felt, okay, there's going to be some upsets. We went over the seedings. Oh, this seed usually knocks up that seed. And, there's always at least this happening. And that's what we all did. And we got destroyed in that department. So I can tell you right now, this is going to be a big year. And the question, though, is, do you go right back and say, you know what, I'm going to gamble that what happened last year is not an anomaly, and what happened last year is going to continue to happen until something's fixed? Do you do that? Because if you do that, because remember, there were a lot, not only were there no Cinderellas, but there were a lot of blowouts. So the dogs, not good. So that's the other thing. I'd rather have it the other way, obviously, because we can make a lot of money that way based on just money line play. But we'll see. I got my fingers crossed that we'll go back to normal. But we're not going to know until we talk on Selection Sunday or have a good idea about it. Okay, so let's go through this. And again, Michigan, with that loss to Wisconsin, still the top choice. Now, I had Michigan at 10-1 early. When was it? Let me pop up my future board, because these are my futures right here. Okay, so these are all the futures that I played before today's show. And it started right here with Michigan. After they went on that run and started annihilating teams, including Gonzaga, I remember contacting Jim and saying, I know it's only December. It might have been late January. Late November. But I remember saying to Jim, I know it's not normally the time that we do this, but you got to know this. Michigan is just going to be awesome this year. And you're getting this number here at 10-1, and it's going to be a bargain. And sure enough, it might have just been a couple of days later. It went down to whatever it was, 5-1, 4-1. I think it made its way down to 3-1. Now it's back to 4-1. So I can't take 4-1 in January. So that's, if you couldn't get him at even, I think 8-1 is probably my line that I would draw. 8-9-1 at this point in time. I need a little bit more time to see about injuries and things of that nature. Purdue, I was able to get Purdue a month later. And by the way, I think this is a price you can still get Purdue. So I just think this is Purdue's year. I think they're going to the Final Four this year. Again, I got to see the bracket, but until I see the bracket, I think this is Purdue's year. I think Michigan State is once again going to be competitive as always. So I saw no reason based on the team this year that they can't be just as good, if not better than last year's team. Because I actually think they could be better than last year's team, which is why, once again, Tom Izzo bargained 40-1. I thought Duke was a bargain at 14-1. I even think right now they're 13-1. So this line hasn't really dropped down that much over the last couple of weeks. I'm a little bit surprised about that. I really am. Because it's Duke. So I said, yeah, I'm taking it. And Iowa, this is my Final Four pick here. And this was more of a Final Four deal. And then let me just throw in a little extra on the 100-1 just in case, something happens. But I like the 25-1 Final Four, just like I went with the Final Four play on today's show. So this is again, we haven't had a pick in 9 days. So this was the first one for today's show. We went with Nebraska 11-1 to make the Final Four. They're 40-1 to win the championship, right around that range. And then the last team before today's show was Texas Tech. And to my surprise and my shock, I still don't understand this. And I'm going to probably even double down if things go well for me in the next couple of weeks, if these odds stay the same. But I really have no idea what Texas Tech's number has gone up to 55-1. No idea. There's no injuries. Nothing I could tell. So Texas Tech, to me, is still a big bargain. They might even be the best bargain in all of college basketball. They've got two fantastic players. They have one of the best players in college basketball. And I'm just shocked. This is a team that came that close to knocking off Houston on the road just a few days ago. I showed you how good they are. They beat Duke. They nearly beat Houston. And you're getting now 55-1 on Texas Tech. I don't get it. Anyway, that's why you want to take advantage of a play like that. And then today, now here are a couple of teams, Louisville and St. John's, that you would never have been able to get this number in November. I don't even remember what it was, but I'm guessing it was probably both teams were around 25-30-1. So now you're getting 60 and 75-1 on these teams. So this is the old adage in all of handicapping: buy low, sell high, all that stuff. So I am completely buying low on Louisville and St. John's. And you might, say, well, they're not disappointing. So if they're not going too well. Well, what's up? Well, look, if they had some serious injuries where players were not coming back, that's different. But that's not happening. Louisville has an injury. The player's coming back. Very important player coming back. And for St. John's, this is a team that a lot of new players, some holdovers, but new players. And in today's day and age of college basketball, it's not every team is just going to come out of the gates like Michigan, Arizona, and so forth and just lights on fire. Because even though most teams like Michigan have a lot of new players. So some teams will take off and gel right away, and other teams will take a different approach, a different level of how long it's going to take to gel and so forth. It doesn't make either team any better than the other, because it all just depends on how they do in March. That's it. And right now, I think St. John's is a great play at 75-1. And that's part of a game that we're going to do today. So check out for that. And again, with Louisville, if you look at them, just so you know, the player, Mikel Brown Jr., only a freshman. but one of the better freshmen in the country. And he has been out for the last 7 games. Okay. And this is pretty much where things have not gone well for Louisville. They've been struggling a little bit. They've lost some games against some good teams. But don't forget Kelsey, the head coach at Louisville. Remember how Louisville for the last several years, things just went really bad. Shocking how bad things went. So they bring in Kelsey, and all this guy does in his first year is win ACC Coach of the Year. And Louisville has this big year. Look, things didn't work out in the tournament, but it was first year, and they did enough in year 1 to turn the program around. Now what they do in the offseason, or to even try to create a better program or better team this season, they get the recruitment of Mikel Brown, and they also get the transfer addition in the portal of Ryan Conwell from Xavier, who's like great scorer. So a player like that will help you light things up. They have wins over Kentucky, Indiana, Memphis, which are okay, nothing great, but again, I'm not worried about that. This is a team that does not have one of their key players and hasn't been. They've also had a couple of other injuries, Nick's bruises here and there, but for the most part, the big loss is Mikel Brown, and he is going to be back real soon for Louisville. So before he returns and they go on a run potentially, grab Louisville at 60-1. I would definitely do that at this point in time. And I think, let me see, is there any other team that's not? No, I think most of these other teams we're going to be talking about today. Okay, so those are my futures. Let's not get back to the futures themselves. So you can check. So Arizona undefeated, sitting there at 6-1. I don't know. I'm not as sold on Arizona as I am on Michigan, but you also kind of feel that Arizona is ready to take that next step too. And honestly, I don't know if they have the best team that they've ever had, but I just think it's everything is just working out for them. Like I said, just with Michigan too, things are working out. I just don't know whether or not they have like a true go-to guy. That's the thing that I'm not sure about yet. It's early, so there's time. They got talent on that team. Everybody knows that. Tommy Lloyd has done a really fantastic job with that program. And that's why I said, you just get the feeling that it's a matter of time before things work out for Arizona. They've already had wins over Alabama, Auburn, UConn, and Florida. Okay, so they have not been messing around. So they've had some really good quality wins. Arizona has. The thing I'm a little bit worried about, by the way, 7 players on that team. They don't have a very deep scoring roster. I think they have like 8. I think they go 8 deep scoring wise. But 7 of those average 9 points a game or more, I believe it. I think that's where they're at right now. 7 average 9 or more. So that's huge. But the thing that worries me is that half of their rotation are freshmen. That's what worries me. And I don't know whether or not come tournament time that is going to be what you're going to be looking at for a team that you'd feel confident to win a national championship, one that has not been at the Final Four in a while. So look, 6-1. If you did not take advantage of Arizona earlier in the year, just wait. Just wait. Because let's say they go on a 2 out of 3 losing streak. Well, maybe you'll get back to 10-1, and you can think about taking them then. But I think it's too late to take a team like Arizona right now at 6-1. Now you get the interesting numbers here, and this is why I think this year this is actually a good year to take some futures on college basketball teams right now. Everybody's talking about there's big disparity between, you get these really good teams that are either undefeated or they got 1 loss and they've got these great records, and but there's quite a bit of them. And so it's like, what's going on here? You do have to worry that maybe it's sort of what happened last year, as I was mentioning before, with the lack of Cinderellas. And does that mean that there's going to be like too many really good teams And then all those really good teams are going to be in the Sweet 16. Look, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'd like at least one Cinderella. But these are those teams that you're looking at. All these teams are Sweet 16 caliber, Final Four caliber, and even championship caliber. I'll say this. Let me run through championship caliber. Michigan, Arizona, Iowa State, UConn, Purdue, Houston. I don't know if I could say Gonzaga. Duke. I'm going to say Florida, even though they lost major personnel from last year, but they deserve it. BYU and Gonzaga, I need to see more proof. Same with Vanderbilt. I need to see more proof. Michigan State, you can always count on Tom Izzo to be that guy. I think Arkansas could be in that group. Calipari's always got talent. I put it more as a Final Four team. Kansas, once again, I'm not sure on Kansas. Things didn't go well for them last year. And they're going to be a better team this year. But I don't know. I'm not seeing it. But what's this? Louisville, definitely. And then St. John's, definitely in my mind. And I think that's it. But if you're talking about Sweet 16, wow. Michigan. I mean, all 6 of these teams, Gonzaga, Duke, Illinois, Florida, BYU, Vandy, Michigan State, Nebraska, Arkansas. Again, I'm not even sure about Kansas. Virginia, I might need some more proof on, but they're back in a way. So still needs a little bit more data on them, a little bit more of a season. But Alabama should be there, Louisville, Texas Tech, Tennessee again with Rick Barnes. I think North Carolina has the possibility of being a Sweet 16 team. Not totally sold. I think Kentucky's been very disappointing at this point. St. John's, you already know about that. I think SMU is, and we'll talk about them in a minute. You know how I feel about Iowa. Brownwell's done a fantastic job at Clemson. They could definitely win a couple of games to get to the Sweet 16. And let's see if I see any, Miami's having a great start. Indiana, I think, is a dangerous Sweet 16 caliber team. And let's see if anybody else just sticks out. Missouri's definitely sticks out to me. I really like Gates is a fun coach to watch the team play. Do they have enough defense? That's always been the question. But I think Missouri could be a sleeper Sweet 16 team. Central Florida, we'll talk about them. And let's see if anybody else sticks out. San Diego State, they're starting to get on a roll. We'll see how serious they are. And I think that's about it. Virginia Tech, I like the way they're playing. I don't know if they're Sweet 16 caliber, though. Okay, there you go. All right, so let's take a look now at the games, or at the futures, excuse me. So, or I should say, let's just update, because I want to show you these Final Four futures. So, again, I showed you I had Iowa at 25-1. I just put Nebraska in at whatever they were, 11-12-1. So I think other decent odds for Sweet 16. Let's see. Louisville. Obviously, the teams I like for the championship, Texas Tech. I think Tennessee might actually be a pretty decent one at 18-1. Can Rick Barnes get there? Maybe this is the year. Definitely St. John's. And yeah, some of these other teams. Well, I don't know. I don't know. Final Four, I'd probably say, I don't know. I think Indiana, maybe. Out of this group, maybe Indiana. And that might be it for Final Four. Yeah, that might be it. Okay, so there you go. Now, let's talk about the games. And we're going to start, first of all, in the ACC. Okay. So these are the 4 games I wanted to highlight for today. And taking a look at these games for tomorrow. All right. So you got the 2 12 o'clock games, Virginia, SMU, and Notre Dame, Virginia Tech. And with Virginia, they've won 10 out of the last 11. They lost to Virginia Tech during that stretch. They just beat Louisville on the road on Tuesday. Solid win. And this is Ryan Odom's first year. So he comes over from VCU, and it looks like Virginia's on the right path. So they're also 11-6 ATS. They're a 1-point favorite in this one at SMU. SMU has not lost at home so far, and they're really in a tough stretch right now with their schedule. In their last 4 games, they've had 2 wins against 2 decent teams, Virginia Tech and North Carolina. And not Virginia Tech. Who they have? Let's see. Oh, yeah, that's right. I was thinking about Virginia. Yeah. SMU's got the wins over Virginia Tech and North Carolina, and SMU's got losses over Duke and Clemson. So, there's some really tough teams, and now they got to go up against Virginia. But like I said, they are undefeated at home. This is Andy Einfeld's second year here. Einfeld, Florida Gulf Coast to USC to SMU. And, he had a really good, strong year last year. Unfortunately, even though they had 24 wins, the schedule wasn't tough enough, and they did not get to the tournament. But I think they're definitely tournament bound this year. And so these are the types of games that they have to win, especially considering they're at home. So this is not one of my top picks because this is but I just think this is a game that you need to pay attention to because these are 2 teams, especially SMU. Everybody knows still about Virginia, obviously. But SMU, not so sexy of a team that people talk too much about in college basketball, but pay attention to SMU. They have the ability to be a dangerous team come tournament time as long as they get there. Notre Dame and Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's a 4-point favorite in this one, and this is going to be a play. I'm going to go with the Hokies in this one. Notre Dame, they've been going through a tough stretch right now. Their top player, Marcus Burton, has been out the last 7 games, and they've now lost their last 3 straight, including 2 at home by 12 or more points. That's not good. Meanwhile, Virginia Tech, they've won 8 of their last 9 against Notre Dame, but they're just 1-3 in the last 4. The difference is in Virginia Tech's 3 losses during this stretch, they have been by a total of 5 points. Okay, so that's how close their losses have been. So who knows? Depending on how things have gone, their record could be that much better. And this is important too. Virginia Tech has 13 wins already this year. They had 13 wins all of last season. It was a bad season for Virginia Tech last year, but it looks like they've rebounded nicely. They're off to a good start, but they've got to stop the slide right now before it gets any further. And I think they'll do that. Again, this is like a monster game for them. Notre Dame, look, they're not a tournament team. They were one of those teams when the season began that you said, okay, it's possible. Everything goes right. Well, everything has not gone right. Everything has gone wrong. You lose like your top player for a stretch like this, and that's just not good. So this is just not a tournament team. They're not going there unless there's a dramatic turnaround and they get the kid back at some point. It's just not going to happen more than likely. But Virginia Tech, there's still a lot of hope there. And I expect that they're going to play this type of game the way they should. And that's with the season on the line when it comes to trying to stop their little slide here and get going again. Next up, Miami and Clemson. And interesting, Clemson 9-0 at home, Miami 3-0 on the road. So something will break. Clemson's a 4-point favorite in this one. And the thing I like about Clemson this year is that they're a veteran team. But that's the good part. The bad part is they don't really have any big-time players they can turn to when you need them. But so far, they're a nice stretch right now. And of course, everybody's at least played at some point, I don't know, 4 to 6 conference games. And you'll see this happen because, once the non-conference schedule is over and you get into the conference, that's almost like a second season. And so you can see some teams, all of a sudden it turns on. Or it's like a new lease on life, and they focus more because they're conference games. There's a variety of reasons why things just can flip like that once the conference schedule opens up, and I think that's what Clemson's done. They're playing their best basketball right now. They've won 8 straight, including a good win against SMU, who we just mentioned about. Miami, meanwhile, they've got a new coach, Jai Lucas, who's never been a coach before, but I think it was a good hire. I think he'll do a good job recruiting down there in South Florida. Miami's won 10 straight games. Under the radar, they've won 10 straight games. The problem is they haven't really beaten anybody. So they've had a pretty good schedule at this point in time. And that's the reason I like Clemson in this one as a 4-point favorite. But out of these, let's see, we have one more to go. So I tell you what, let's go to the next one, and then I'll just summarize the ACC here. So you have Duke and Stanford. Stanford, we're talking about Stanford basketball. I guess we wouldn't really be talking about Stanford football either. But Duke, as I mentioned before, surprised that you're getting 13-14-1 to win the championship. They're 16-1 on the season. They're having, they're playing as good as you could expect them to play. They did blow the lead against Texas Tech. I get that, but come on. The one thing that you have to keep an eye on with Duke, just like Arizona, 4 of their top 9 players are freshmen, including Cameron Boozer. But Cameron Boozer is looked at as one of the best freshmen in all of college basketball. And they've already had really good wins. So just like Arizona, they've won really good non-conference games. And this is, a championship caliber team. The thing that is not good is they're an 8-point favorite in this one. They're just 3-8 against the spread in their last 11. Stanford, that's what we want to talk about here. We all know about Duke, right? But Stanford, Kyle Smith, year 2. That was such a good hire. And you're already reaping the benefits. They won 21 games last year, and they got a pretty new team this year. But all Kyle Smith did was go out there and obtain the services of Ibuka Okere. And this kid is one of the best freshmen in all of college basketball. If you watched the game the other night against North Carolina, I think they were down like 4 or 5 in the last couple of minutes. They come back. They beat North Carolina between Okere. 36 points, 9 assists on the night. This is truly a star player that Stanford has their hands on. And check this out. Stanford, they've beaten Louisville, Virginia Tech, and they just beat North Carolina. These are decent wins for Stanford, and that's why they are for real as far as a team that can be in the tournament this year. Now, can they go to double? Can they beat North Carolina and Duke back-to-back? Probably not. Okara was out, one of their top players in the North Carolina game, and they still won, by the way. Matter of fact, they had 3 players, including Okere, that had 20 or more points. So they have players that can play at Stanford, not just Okere. Anyway, look, it's an 8-point spread. I think after the game against North Carolina, there should be tons of confidence. The place is going to be buzzing. This, again, will be 6 o'clock tomorrow. And I think Stanford's a decent play. I really do. I don't know if I would take him on the money line, but considering Duke is just 3-8 against the spread in their last 11, I think Stanford's a pretty good play there. So keep an eye on the Cardinal this season. Now, just wrapping up with the ACC and the reason I wanted to go over these teams. Again, I wanted you to know more about Stanford because normally nobody would consider Stanford, but they are for real. Okay, they've got a really good coach. They've got talent that can score, and they've got an exciting superstar caliber player on their team. And then again, the Virginia SMU game, those are 2 tournament type teams, especially Virginia at this point. I think Virginia Tech you want to be keeping an eye on. And Miami, I don't know if Miami's going to keep this up, but Miami's a team that, depending on whether or not they can start knocking off tournament caliber teams, then we'll start to get really serious about Miami. And that starts with Clemson. I know Clemson may not even be looked at right now as a tournament caliber team. And look, I'm not even sure right now if they'll make the tournament, but I just think you need to definitely pay attention to that Miami Clemson game. Those are 2 good, solid ACC teams. Now, let's talk about, what do we want to do? The SEC or the Big 12? Let's do SEC. Okay. And a lot of people out there, fans, talking about what's going on with Vanderbilt. And it's a really nice story, and I get it, and I'm all for it. But it's way too early. Matter of fact, Vanderbilt, I think, if you look at the futures, you'll see that conference winner. I think there's something like almost even money to win the conference. And I think that's crazy. There is no way would I put even money. There it is. Matter of fact, if I was to get, I think the SEC is a little bit more wide open than these odds suggest. I get it. Vanderbilt's good team. Florida, good team. But there's talent at Arkansas, Alabama, and Tennessee. And any of these three teams here have got the ability to go on a roll and to get better and better as the season goes on. So, this is maybe a little bit more open, I think. But getting back to Vanderbilt, look, it's been a great season for them at this point, but you have to keep in mind they have not had a major tough schedule, and that's the difference. Their best win was the win not too long ago when they beat Alabama at home. And then right after winning their best game of the season, they go on the road and lose to Texas. And that was a double-digit loss, lost by 16. So while they're a nice team, a good team, I don't look at Vandy at this point in time it's sort of, to me, I actually look at them the same way I would look at Nebraska. Good teams getting off to great starts. There'll be a tough tourney out. They could be maybe even a dark horse Final Four team. But I don't think there's anything more than that, at least now. That includes Nebraska, because both Vandy and Nebraska need to play more tough teams on their schedule. And they will. And we'll find out a lot more about Nebraska and Vanderbilt as the season goes on. But right now, they're at that. Just remember, I was just saying before, buy low, sell high, all that kind of stuff. Or, yes, that's it. The fact is that at this point in time, I'd be selling high on Vanderbilt's odds, especially because, let me see, I didn't even notice what they have Nebraska at, but Nebraska's got Michigan in their conference. But let me see what they've got. See, they got Nebraska as the third choice and almost the fourth choice, and yet they're undefeated. So they're there. I mean, I think they're situated where they should be, but I just think Vanderbilt at even money, the odds-on favorite, that is definitely not the way that I would go in that department. But hey, I think it's a great story, as I said, and they're going to be a tough team come tournament time. They're a 3-point home favorite against Florida, who's won 7 out of 8. Florida got off to a sluggish start this year, to be expected, after winning a national championship. Major losses to that championship team. They've won 7 out of 8 during the stretch, though. They've won their last 3 by 15 or more. And because of that, and Vandy losing their first game, and this is another thing that I notice a lot in not football, but I know not the NFL, but I notice it in college football. I notice it in college basketball, and even in other big, NBA, baseball, hockey, where if you go on this run, you've won 10 straight, 12 straight, or you're undefeated to start the season, whatever. When you lose that first game, the next game is a tricky one because you have put in so much effort during that winning streak to keep the streak alive, and you're on this high, everything's going great. And as soon as you lose that first game, you just lose something. And that little something is all that's you need. Now, sometimes the schedule is kind and you play a team that it doesn't matter if you come down a little bit. You're still going to beat that opponent. I don't think this is a good opponent in that situation for Vandy. Like I said, Florida is playing their best basketball of the year, and I'm getting 3. So I'm taking the Gators in that one. Actually, let me get back to where we were. Where's the SEC? There we go. All right. Now let's get to the other game, Kentucky at Tennessee. And I wanted to mention this one because we had Kentucky, a very disappointing start to the season. They came this close. They were down a lot to LSU the other night, and for like the majority of the game. And they come back late in the game. They steal the game. They stole the game, and they beat LSU. Otherwise, if they did not steal that game, Kentucky would be 10-7, overall and 0-3 on the road. But they got the win. So now they get a little bit of, a little bit of life. They've got a long way to go. Now, maybe that's the game they needed to kickstart the season, but I don't know. Look, it's 6 points against Tennessee, so I'm not saying this is a great game to take, but I just think that Kentucky's the team. I wanted to mention this game because things are not going really well for them so far this season. So keep an eye on them. They got a lot of work to do. Tennessee, meanwhile, look, a lot of change from last year's team. And we all know the Ricky Barnes deal. Everybody knows it. But Tennessee, they're 10-0 at home. And they're favorite over Kentucky because they should be. They're playing better than Kentucky. And again, the thing about Tennessee is what's interesting about them is that they're a team that's really good defensively in a conference that really is mostly full of offensive teams that's their style. And that can be a benefit to Tennessee, that they can be considered the best defensive team in the conference. So that's a good thing. I don't know, though, if they have the type of players, super players that Tennessee is going to need, but they've had really good players before, and it hasn't helped them. So you never know. We always talk about things like this, that maybe it's the year that you don't think a team is going to make that, or for Rick Barnes' sake, get that illustrious Final Four appearance for Tennessee. Look, they've got wins over Houston and Louisville. Those are quality wins. They have some quality losses. So I think Tennessee definitely playing better than Kentucky right now. They're a 6-point favorite in that one. And then the other one is Missouri LSU. And you might wonder why I would pick that game. And the reason I did that is because I mentioned LSU. And they came real close to winning that game against Kentucky and probably should have. But that's a team that really misses Jalen Reed. This is a team that really had to have a big year this year to kind of get the rebuild going. And when they lost Jalen Reed, that just really killed them because they don't have the depth. And now they're 6-5 without him. So, and he's a big guy too, and he missed the size. Missouri, meanwhile, is their opponent here. And that's the reason I wanted to bring this up, because they're getting 4 points in this one. Missouri's been a better team than LSU this year. There's no doubt about that. And again, I think Missouri has got sleeper tournament potential. Gates, again, I think he's a fun coach to follow. And right now they're playing really good ball. They're 3-1. Excuse me. They are, what are they? In their last 4, they're 3-1. And they have wins over Auburn by 10, Florida, and Kentucky. So those are their wins. They've won 3 out of 4, and those are the teams they've beaten. And they've been a dog in every game. So they're 3-1 in their last 4, upsetting 3 opponents, and they're 4 points dogs again in this one. Also, they're 3-1 straight up, 3-0-1 against the spread in their last 4 versus LSU. So they've really handled this series too. And this is really important with Missouri. And this is part of the reason that you want to jump on teams like this. Missouri had a couple of players. They had this kid Stone, Jaden Stone, and he was out, banged up. Matter of fact, he injured his hand after game 6 of the season. He was out for almost a month, and he returned a couple weeks ago, just before they went on this run. And also, Trent Pierce, another player for them, did not play his first game until just about the same time that Stone came in. And these are players. Pierce was a player that averaged, close to 7 a game last year. Stone was a transfer that they were really counting on. And sure enough, as soon as both of those kids came into the lineup, they went on this run. So you have to, I definitely have taken advantage of that myself. And I'm going to look to do that again tomorrow because this is a big one for Missouri. LSU is not a tournament team. Missouri's got that capability. And if they want to keep that going, they have to take care of business against teams like LSU, who have lost 4 straight games. LSU's lost 4 straight. They also lost to South Carolina at home as a 7-point favorite. So all of that said, I think Missouri is a quality dog in this one. Let's now go to the Big Ten. And in the Big Ten, you've got a couple of games to highlight. Iowa, as I mentioned, I have Iowa and Purdue. But this is a real good game, Iowa and Indiana, because Iowa has really gone up against it in their last 3 games. They've lost 3 straight, and they started off with a really tough loss, not a good loss to Minnesota, because their last 2 games, I think it was Illinois, and they just lost to who did they just lose to? They lost to a real good team. They just lost to a real good team. It was Purdue. So that's not a good stretch, and that puts them now 0-4 on the road. Okay, these are the things that they've got to straighten out. They want to be a tournament team, which I believe they are. They have beaten Indiana 5 of the last 6 times they played them, so that's good. They're also 12-5 against the spread on the season. Indiana 8-9 ATS. But on the flip side, Indiana, things are not going well. They've lost 2 straight, including a 21-point loss to Michigan State on the road. But look, I think both of these teams can be really good sleeper tournament teams that you get them into the tournament. They've got the coaching. They've got talent out there. Matter of fact, DeVries, the new head coach in Indiana, he's got his son Tucker. We know how good he's been so far in his career. And for Iowa, I just really like the hire. I think it's one of those hires. And look, I'm not an Iowa fan, so I don't know exactly how they took to it. But I got to imagine they took to it really well because they were able to get the head coach that came over from Drake. And, Drake was such a big story last year. They won 31 games that year. So if you recall, Drake was a big story, Missouri Valley, 31 wins and all that. Matter of fact, out of all the Cinderellas, they actually were a team that won a game. And yeah, Cinderella 31 wins, but that's kind of what they were. But what's also really cool about Ben McCollum, the new head coach, who was on Drake, he had a really good history as a Division II head coach. He actually won 4 championships in 6 years at the Division II level. Made his way to Drake 1 year, turned that team around to 31 wins. He's an Iowa native. He grew up not too far from where they're playing at Iowa. And now all of a sudden, you have a team that is completely changing in their philosophy. Remember, under Fran McCaffrey, they're lighting it up. They're scoring 90, 100 a night, but they can't play defense. But hey, they're entertaining. Well, in comes McCollum, and they are like the slowest paced team in college basketball last year at Drake. They are just, it's night and day the way these two teams played from last year to this year. But look, it's a completely new team as well. And he was able to bring in Bennett Sturtz. He's a really talented point guard for the program. And that's what you need. That's why I think that both Iowa and Indiana with DeVries and Sturtz have go-to guys that you really need. And I think both of these teams will be in the tournament. So check them out because they're both struggling right now. They both need a win. Indiana's a 1-point favorite at home. Purdue at USC. Now, look, again, I think Purdue is a Final Four team this year. 3 of their holdovers from last year, their top players are all back, which is a very rare thing in college basketball. But that stability, and these guys have been in this program for a while, that stability is major. Throw in the fact that you've got Matt Painter's done a really good job there. And you just have a look and feel of, hey, we came this close to knocking off Houston last year in the tournament. We're going. We got a goal. We got a drive. We know what we're going to do this year, And so I really have a lot of faith that Purdue is going to make a run this year. USC, this is really the reason to talk about this game, because USC did not really get going under Andy Einfeld and hoped, but they've got Eric Musselman, and that guy can coach. And he's going to get USC back to the tournament and be a dangerous tournament team at some point. Now, I don't think it's this year because, unfortunately, they lost Rodney Rice, a big-time transfer over from Maryland, for the season. He starts off the first 5 or 6 games, I think it was, averaging 20 points a game and 34 minutes a night. And now he's gone, out for the year. So you lose a guy like that, it's over. I mean, maybe he can get this team to the tournament, but that's about it. I can't imagine. And that'll be the goal. Let's get our feet wet in the tournament. Let's hold on to some of these guys for next year, and then let's go get him next year. But he's going to have his work cut out for him. The good thing is they've won 14 games already. They're 14-3. But that's why I wanted to highlight this game, because now we're going to find out just how capable USC is now that they're going to have to step it up as a 7-point home dog against Purdue. Okay, next up. Let's talk Big 12. Okay. All right. In the Big 12, we've got a couple of games here, and they're both really good games. Arizona UCF, good game. You got the undefeated Wildcats, and you've got Johnny Dawkins and the Knights at UCF. So far so good at 14-2. They've had 2 losses, one in conference and one to Vandy. That's it. They got wins over Kansas and wins over Texas A&M. So far it's been a strong season for Central Florida. And it's a talented team. And I think that, they're one of those teams that you just want to keep an eye on and see whether or not they can make the tournament. And in this particular matchup, though, that's going to be tough. No question. Undefeated team. But we just saw what happened to Michigan. And at some point, Arizona's going to lose. This is, a game you might want to think about. They're 9-point dogs, Central Florida. It's a monster game for them. This might end up being the game of the year for them. If they're going to get to the tournament, they've got to get one of these types of wins. And considering Arizona is just sitting there undefeated, looking for that one time that they pop up, well, we'll see if Central Florida can take advantage of it. And we'll see if Central Florida has the goods or not. The other game, BYU and Texas Tech. Now that's an underrated big game of the weekend. These are 2 teams in my mind have got Final Four caliber, especially Texas Tech. They're a 2-point favorite in this game. They're undefeated at home this year. And again, I look at this Texas Tech team, and the thing I really like about them is that they've got not just 1, but 2 star caliber players. Now, most people know about Toppin. He's second year in from the transfer over from New Mexico. Another monster year from him. But then you throw in Christian Anderson, who is one of the top freshmen in the country last year, year 2. So that's was already showing that, that wasn't a fluke. And so you got both of those players combined. You've got a really good coach in Grant McCasland. And you could just see that this team is slowly getting better every year. And I know some people think that, that they lost a little and how would that affect them? But overall, I mean, I think they're going to be just fine. They've already proven that with the win over Duke. They've also had competitive losses to 3 caliber, top caliber type teams like Illinois, Arkansas, and Houston. So they're battle tested and they're home here against a BYU team that comes in with a 16-1 record. They've only played 2 road games all season, 2, outside neutral. They won both of them. But Kevin Young is just doing a fantastic job there. The question is can he get BYU to field the type of players that you need to be competitive come tournament time? And he probably can do that now because he has on his team a player that people think could be the overall pick number 1 in the NBA draft. This kid DeBansta, and the thing I like about BYU is not just because they have like one superstar potential player, but they've got 3 total big time scorers. So they can go 3 different ways as far as scoring is concerned. They've already proven it with solid wins this season against decent teams. But so far, they haven't really stepped up and played big time competition. This is going to be, if they won this game, this is going to be the best win they've had all season. Maybe right there is all you got to do is you see BYU 16-1, Texas Tech 13-4, and you're going, why is BYU the dog? That's why, because even though they have talent on their team and they've had a great year, fact is they haven't won a game this big yet. The good news is the team that they played that they lost, UConn, would have been that big signature win. They only lost that game by 2. So again, this is a good team, BYU. I like BYU, but I just like Texas Tech a little bit better, and that's the reason I'm going to go ahead and take them. We'll see exactly how that goes, but that's a definite. If you have slumbered your way through football and you haven't really paid attention to college basketball yet, but you want to pay attention to college basketball, this is tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Tune in, BYU, Texas Tech. All right, that is the Big 12. Now we're going to, those are the big conferences we're going to talk about today. Now we're just going to go quickly. We got one game each I want to mention in some of these other conferences, St. John's and Villanova. This is a really big game in the Big East because you have a St. John's team, as I mentioned before, a sluggish start, but now they're starting to get going. And I think that the reason, this is why I want to take advantage of them. I want to take advantage of them with the futures, and I want to take advantage of them in these games. Do they wind up? See, I think they're going to start going into a stretch where they're going to wind up winning 12 of 13 or 14 of 16. I really think that's what's going to happen. Now, I don't, now look, there have been no signs of that yet, except for, I just think, remember I was saying before about changing you get to conference play and you got to kind of start over. And that's what I think is going on with St. John's. And they've started off, well, basically they've got a 3-game win streak right now. They've won all 3 games straight up and against the spread by 14 or more points. They have, if you take a look at their team, they've got a deep rotation. They've got star caliber players. They got Zuby Ejiofor. We know how good he is. And the addition of Bryce Hopkins is major. One of the top players in the Big East a few years ago at Providence. Injured last year, didn't play much. Back this year with St. John's, and he is slowly getting into the mix. And, he's no longer the 18, 19, 20-point game a night player he was at Providence, but he doesn't need to be at St. John's because St. John's has Ejiofor. Also, Uzziah Sellers, the Stanford transfer, is going through a nice stretch right now as well. And if you look at, even though they did not have a productive non-conference season, if you want to call it, they had competitive losses. I mean, they did not get blown out in any game. They lost to good teams like Alabama, Auburn, Kentucky. They had a 1-point loss to Iowa State, considered one of the best teams in the country so far at this point. And I still think that even though they haven't looked the part yet, I think that they still will in due time. Rick Pitino is too good a coach. So I think right now is why I'm just going to start to I've already done it, and I'm going to keep doing it. I did it in their second win, and now I did it in their third win, and I'm just going to keep rolling with St. John's now until these lines start being corrected. So St. John's is getting a point in this game, by the way. I'm sure I didn't mention that. Okay, so they're getting a point against Villanova. And Kevin Willard, they've been very disappointing the last few years, so they hire Kevin Willard. And so far, Villanova, not surprisingly, is playing good basketball again. Here's the problem. They've only lost a couple of games. One of them was to Michigan by 28 points. And they haven't beaten anybody. They just haven't. Their best win is probably Wisconsin, and that was in overtime. Okay, so while it's nice that they've started to get off to a good start, or they've gotten off to a good start, and it looks like they're good vibes and all that after a couple of really bad seasons. All that's nice, but there's got some young players on this team mixed with some vets. Um, Look, in the beginning of the season, when you looked at these two teams, there was no doubt in anybody's mind who was the most talented and who was the better team. Okay, no doubt. This is one of the situations where, I'd like to see what the line would have been in November. Now, all of a sudden, because St. John's gets off to a little slow start and Villanova's gotten off to a nice start, Villanova's a 1-point home favorite. Come on. Now, like I said before, I'm going to roll with St. John's, but I'm no, even though I know my thumbnail says it, I'm no wizard. But these are the types of situations I think you have to at least give yourself a chance with. Because again, since I've already taken them a couple of times, I think it's a perfect, ideal spot for me to just keep doing it. Because if they do go on a run, if they do win 7 of 8, if they do win 9 out of 10, whatever, these lines are going to move. Now, all of a sudden, the respect is going to be there. And St. John's, after going 3-0 straight up ATS, maybe they go to 6-0 straight up ATS. Well, those lines will start changing, and it'll be a lot harder to win those games when the numbers start going up. But until they do, I'm going to take advantage of it and see if I could, make it work out, because this is a team that I still have a lot of confidence in come March Madness. All right, that's the Big East. Well, let's go to the Mountain West. There's a game between New Mexico and San Diego State. And I wanted to mention this one because very interesting New Mexico Lobos team to keep an eye on this year. Because Patino, speaking of Patino, you've got his son who used to coach New Mexico. Now he's with Xavier. Well, they needed a new coach at New Mexico. And who did they hire? But Eric Olin, the head coach at UC San Diego. And everybody remembers there were a couple of 30-win teams. I think they had won 30 games. A couple of 30-win teams last year in the tournament that were kind of nice Cinderellas. One of them was Drake, and the other was UC San Diego. And UC San Diego happened to play, I think it was my team, Michigan, in the opening round. And a lot of people were predicting upset in that one. It didn't happen. Michigan got the win, and Eric Olin went on to coach New Mexico. And so far, so good. They're 14-3. They've won 11 out of 12. They have a decent win over Virginia Commonwealth, but that's it. VCU is not really as strong as they have been, even though they're still considered one of the top teams in the conference, in their conference. But it's not as talented as a team in the past years, which is why so far they really haven't beaten anybody, but they are off to a good start. And the Mountain West, as we know, is a very competitive league that can send 3-4 teams to the tournament. They've covered also 10 out of 16. They were in an 8-1 stretch in the last 9 covering games. Meanwhile, San Diego State happens to be on right now. They're on they're playing their best ball of the year at this point. And I took advantage of that a few days ago against Wyoming. I was very surprised to see them getting, I think it was, no, they were a 2-point favorite on the road against Wyoming a few days ago. And I was very surprised about that. So I took advantage of that because I think part of it had to do with the fact that just overall, San Diego State has not started the season the way they would have liked to have. And that's true. They started 3-3. And they even lost to Arizona after getting off to that sluggish start. I think like 5 or 6 games later, they got blown out by Arizona. But that's Arizona. Okay. And that was a game on the road away from home. And you're playing one of the best teams in the hottest teams in college basketball. Okay. So you can get blown out. But other than that, they've won 11 out of 12 now, the Aztecs have. So now they're starting to play the type of ball that we all expected them to play when the season began, as one of the best teams, if not the best team in the conference. Right now, it's probably going to be San Diego State and Utah State. Those are the two teams that are probably going to duke it out for the Mountain West title. And both of these teams are going to end up in the tournament. San Diego State has won 6 straight since the blowout loss to Arizona, including the last 2 by 17 or more. And that, and as well as the one I mentioned, the matchup with Wyoming. And let me get the line on this one because they didn't have a line earlier. So they should have a line by now, right? Let's see if they've got a line in this one. San Diego State. Let's see. Yes, 4. So I'm definitely going to take San Diego State in that one. 4-point favorite at home against New Mexico. Again, I just think they're on a roll, or they're starting to get on a roll. So, sort of like St. John's. And you can see a nice little theme here. That's what you got to do. You got to start when you see teams that look like they're about to get on a roll or they are on a roll, and you've already taken them a few times. Just keep it going. Especially if you have confidence in that team. That and there were reasons why they may not have started the season that they would have liked. Okay, so again, I like New Mexico. I like the coach, but until they win a big game against a good team, I'm just not sure whether or not they are a tournament team. Let's stay out west and go to the WCC, and we're not talking Gonzaga, but St. Mary's and Santa Clara. This one would be at 7 o'clock, 17-2 St. Mary's, 15-5 Santa Clara. And at some point, Santa Clara with Herb Sednick, they got to try to break through. This is a program that has won 2 of the last 5 against Gonzaga. 2 of the last 5 against Gonzaga. Yet, they've lost 8 straight to St. Mary's. So, in order for Santa Clara to try and get in this twosome to make it a threesome, at some point, they got to start doing more than that. Well, first of all, they got to stop this losing streak. And if they're going to stop the losing streak to St. Mary's, it's going to happen more than likely. You would think it would happen at home. So whether they can accomplish that or not, we'll find out. There's no line on the game. I would guess the line will be, I don't know. If I had to guess, I would maybe you're looking at a line of about 3 to 5, I would guess. And if I get more like 5 in that area, then I might take Santa Clara on the money line because that's how big this game is. This is everything for Santa Clara. If they're going to have any chance at all for a third out large in this conference, they have got to split both of these teams. And they've already lost Gonzaga. And that Gonzaga game, 10 minutes to go, second half, was a nip and tuck game. And then that was it. The last half of the second half, Gonzaga took off. Didn't even cover, but they took off and won the game. So, and Santa Clara had beaten Gonzaga in Gonzaga last year. Okay, so if they can split with the Zags, split with St. Mary's, and get to the championship game of the WCC, and probably they probably can't lose to any other WCC team. That's how tough it's going to be for them because they do not have, well, look, they don't have like a marquee non-conference win, but what they have is they have some decent wins. They beat Xavier. They beat Nevada. They beat Minnesota. These are decent teams from other conferences. But again, if they're going to have any chance, this is where it begins. And they got a St. Mary's team they're going up against. They lost by 1 point to Boise State. A good team, a team that's capable of being an at-large team in the Mountain West. And they got annihilated by Vandy in that matchup. And that's been the problem with St. Mary's. You get them to the tournament or they play these, more high-caliber type teams the way Gonzaga does. Usually Gonzaga will play 5 or 6 of those teams. St. Mary's plays like 1. And you can see why. Because they're just not at that level. And that's a crazy thing to think about, too, considering St. Mary's has been the best team in the WCC the last couple of years. So, but when it comes to the tournament, they haven't been able to get it done. Okay. And then we wrap it all up with one more, and that's the MAC. And I need to bring this up just in case, you got some fans out there that are trying to wonder what's going on with Miami. This 18-0 team. Well, look, they're a deep team. They have 5 players in double figures. They are a team coming off the MAC championship game last year. They had won 25 games. They haven't been to the tournament in almost 20 years. They were that close. They lost a close MAC championship game, and then that was it. They come back. They started off 18-0. They're also and they're playing a Buffalo team. Look, if they were playing a bad team, I wouldn't mention them. But Buffalo's a team that had 9 wins last year. Well, they got 13 already, and that's not surprising. Going into the season, you looked at them and you saw a program that was going to get better, and they were going to be better than last year. The question was how better. Well, they've been okay. They've been good. But now we'll find out just how good Buffalo is. As far as Miami, the problem is, even though they're 18-0, they don't have a win they don't have a real big win. And that's unfortunate. And, I don't know the answer. I don't have answers for you. Why some team like Miami in these situations, especially coming off a 25-win team, how you couldn't have figured out a way to get into a tournament a non-conference tournament in November. Could you have matched up against some big, it doesn't even have to be a major program, but just some team that you can see exactly, because the thing is, when you team like Miami, let's say you schedule Virginia. Well, if you lose to Virginia, you're not going to get knocked for it. I mean, I don't see the downside. If you beat Virginia, though, now you say, look, I'm only saying just do one at least. And if you get one and you beat Virginia, say, look, we're undefeated and we beat Virginia. Let's say they go 28-2 or something and lose the MAC championship again. Well, without one of those wins, because you didn't play anybody, you might end up on the short end of the stick again. And that's the unfortunate thing. But we'll see. It's a nice story so far. They've won 5 out of 7 against Buffalo, and they've covered all 7. What was that? That game's at 1:00 tomorrow. No, I don't want that. I wanted to see what the line is. Let me see. It's a 1:00 game. Let me see if I got a line. This would be a big number. Nope, no line yet. Okay. So this would be a double-digit line game, I would guess. But look, they're 7-0 ATS against Buffalo, so I'll leave that up to you. So that's going to wrap it up for this one. And look, we're going to be on. What I'm going to try to do is put these together. Not sure if we're going to put these types of formats together every week, but I do know that now that we're off and running, every few days, what I'll do is if I notice, especially like Tuesdays are really good. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are really good each week, and Saturdays. But what I'll try and do is just maybe come on for 5 minutes, or maybe even just do a short and say, okay, here's a couple of games we like and why, that sort of stuff. But I'll stick to basically just going after games, sort of like if I was going to pick a game today out of the games that I really like that stick out to me, it would be St. John's, San Diego State. I'll put them in there. It'd be St. John's first, San Diego State second. Florida's in there. Yeah, that would be my top 3 that I would look at. I would probably go 1 St. John's, 2 Florida, and 3 San Diego State. So if we get that kind of stuff on a Tuesday or Wednesday, instead of going through everything I went through today, because again, I'm not going to have futures all the time. We're just going to come on, give some picks, let you know why, and go from there. And I'm sure once Mark and Jim, they get going with college hoops, they'll probably start doing the same as well. But there you go. Hope this helped. Again, I know it's not for the average football fan who also does not get into college basketball until the football season is over. It's a Friday night as well. I know it's not a busy night out there for college basketball aficionados, but I hope we're able to at least give you something to think about and to look long-term in through March Madness. And we'll see you again, like I said, sometime real soon. Our next show on the channel is going to be on Monday at 4 o'clock Eastern. We'll talk more NFL. We get into the offseason previews. We're going to be talking with Adam Patrick, Minnesota Vikings, 4 o'clock Eastern, part of the Arled's Football Network, right here at ProLine TV. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any games that you want me to handicap or get you some information on, futures, teams that you're interested in, my advice, anything like that along the lines, just let me know. Leave a little note, and I'll get back to you. And also, don't forget this. That's important. Absolutely. Thanks a lot. We'll see you guys next time.